Hello and welcome to the final day of the Wealthy Lightworker series. As you guys know, my name is Colleen Markham and I'm going to be interviewing myself or just sharing my story. And before we jump in, let's do what we always do and take our deep breath. I'm not quite sure why I felt compelled to share my story, except that I know that it feels good. And so here I am. I wanted to talk a little bit about what it took to bring me to a place where I had the confidence and the ability to get out of the way so that I could create something bigger than who I am. And it's been a long journey. I turn 32 next month, and before, as a child, I've always known that I was put on this planet to serve others. And I had a lot of people in my life who I just wanted them to be happy more than anything. So I felt their feelings so deeply as if they were my own. And I'm sure many of you can relate, because really that's the shadow side of being a light worker. You empathize so deeply that you often put other people's needs above your own. And I did that for my life, really. I always wanted to do what would make other people happy and proud. More than anything, I just didn't want others to judge me as someone who wasn't living up to her potential. So for years, that's where I lived from. I did what I was supposed to do. I got good grades in high school. I got into a good college. I, stayed close to home. But I started to notice this dissonance between the life I was living on the surface and who I truly was inside. And things started to happen that really made me question that. Things like, young people I knew and was friends with who passed away, and dealing with their deaths, having to recognize my own mortality. Things like falling in love with someone who was the wrong person for me, or things like realizing that going to a good college and getting a good job was never really going to make me happy. So between my junior and senior year of college, I kind of had a meltdown, and I took off and I moved to San Francisco, and I lived with my cousin for the summer, and it was life-changing. For those of you who know the difference between the East Coast and the West Coast, it is, needless to say, it was a culture shock, and I became tapped into a deeper understanding of who I was through this experience. And I came back to the East Coast, finished out college, and still felt this sense of, I'm supposed to be doing more with my life. And I decided to go back. So after about a year back in Boston, I moved back to San Francisco, lived there for about a year, and I applied to the Peace Corps, and I was accepted. And I was supposed to be going to Nicaragua, and I was so excited because I finally felt like I was going to be able to do something good for the world. Of course, through all of this, I still wasn't happy with me. I still wasn't really looking deeper at who I was and honoring, the doubt that I had and learning from it. I was running from it. I was running. I moved back home in order to save money for the Peace Corps. But I think what I really was doing was, again, running away. I was afraid. I was afraid to stretch. I was afraid to grow. And of course, that meant that when it came time to leave for the Peace Corps, I was 10 days away. It became clear that because of my student loans, because of money, right, I wouldn't be able to go. And I look back at that now and I see that it was because I didn't value myself then. So why would I have the ability to flow with life and allow, and for money to come in when I needed it, if I didn't value myself first, which I certainly didn't at, 20, I think I was 23 at the time. 24. So I didn't go to the Peace Corps. I did drive cross country with a friend, and then I drove cross country again a few years, I think a year later, with an older woman and her dog. And both of those experiences were life-changing, and they were beautiful. But I look back and I see how much of what I did was running away from myself rather than really facing my internal self-doubt and fear and my lack of trust that I had for myself. Because again, everything I did in the back of my head was guilt-ridden. Because if I was happy, it meant I was making other people sad. By following my heart, I was hurting others. And this is really what I believed. And it's true to a degree that, you know, when we shift into a different version of ourselves, that the people around us might not love it at first. But if they truly love us, they see our happiness, and that's all that matters. But I was there, so I was in this place of, you know, fear and self-doubt, and money became the issue that led me to take my first corporate job, and hopefully my only corporate job ever. And I worked in a tiny little cubicle, and let me tell you, I was miserable. I was so sad in that job. This depression that kind of came over when I realized that I wasn't going to the Peace Corps, that, you know, things just weren't working out the way that I thought they were supposed to. And again, it was perfect divine unfolding, so that it forced me to really face some of my fears and some of my pain. While I was there, I kind of just, I found the nicest guy that I could, and I kind of just clung to him. And he and I were dating for just 5 months when we found out that we were pregnant. And I remember that day, the mixed emotions I felt that seemed to match all of the conflicting feelings that I've been feeling towards myself for all these years, of being so grateful for this chance of becoming a mother, and also feeling so scared that I was about to embark on this journey with someone that I barely knew. And in that moment, you know, fear kind of took the wheel, but also some faith too. And I thought, maybe this could work. Maybe I could, you know, find happiness in this marriage and, you know, do all the right things. So becoming a mom shifted everything for me. But I still had these self-doubt feelings where I just was not enough. So I started to really want to create the appearance on the outside that everything was great. So we bought a cute little house that had just been flipped, and it was adorable inside. And even then, I knew I wanted more than that. I wanted a job that was, you know, paid well, and I could stand on my own 2 feet. So I started a daycare, and I loved it. But pretty quickly, I realized that it was not my calling. So I actually discovered an amazing network marketing company named Arbonne. I don't know if you've heard of them, but it was one of these things that it just came into my life, and I never thought I'd do anything like it. My son was 1.5 years at the time, and I launched my business, and that changed everything. Being in business for yourself requires so much self-development, and I was chomping at the bit to finally face some of the things that I'd been hiding from. So I did, and I grew, and I started speaking in public, and I started making money and getting recognized, and just being exposed to this incredible culture of positive, uplifting women mostly, who just were here to make a difference in the world. And being around that reminded me that all those years ago, when I was 19 years old, and I happened to sit in an office of a man who is an intuitive. And he sat there and he said to me when I was 19, "Colleen, you are a light worker. And by the time you are 31 years old, you will be embodying that role." And I was reminded of this through tapping into my business and growing in all the ways I was growing. And I realized that as much as, this business was a huge part of what I love to do, I knew there was even more that I was meant to do in this life. So I dug deeper and I started to, I hired a coach and I started to work on these deep-seated things that I hadn't faced. Meanwhile, I had another child and we did buy an even bigger home. And everything on the outside looked so good. And my house was clean and it was classy and it was massive and it was in a beautiful neighborhood and all those things that, you are supposed to have. I had them. I had a kind husband. Everything was working out. And within about a week of moving into this house, it hit me, all of it, that I wasn't happy and that I wouldn't be if I didn't make some really, really big changes. It took me another year from then to get the courage up to actually ask for a divorce. And now it's a year after that I sit here talking to you today. I wish I could say that the moment that I woke up from my dreamland, that it was just an easy transition to empowering myself. It has been one of the most difficult journeys I could have ever imagined. I went through so much pain and so much anguish, and it truly was one of those experiences that I wouldn't ever wish on anyone else. But the pain forced me to really examine what it is that I wanted and who I was. And I realized that a big part of my journey was to help others through this transition. So right after I asked for the divorce, I enrolled myself in a certification program to become a whole being coach. And I took this coaching program while I was going through one of the most difficult times of my life. And the alignment of those two things was so perfect because I wouldn't have gotten through my pain if I didn't have the support of that coaching group. And then, all of this, you guys, we can't just shift one day and be the person that we're always supposed to be. We're going to have moments where it gets hard and we start to doubt ourselves. And the doubt will keep coming in and we have to keep facing it, acknowledging it, letting it go, facing it, acknowledging it, letting it go. And the guilt started to come on because here I was, a mom of 2 boys who were still so young, and I was about to deprive them of their father, seeing him on a daily basis. And that broke my heart. And I started to think I was just being selfish and I wasn't really, doing the right thing. So, my ex and I tried again and we got back together and we tried to make it work. And it was okay, but it wasn't, I knew it wasn't going to be enough. And the ball dropped on New Year's Eve of this year. And I knew something had to change. What was interesting, though, is that the beautiful thing about my ex, and he's an amazing man, he's always encouraged me. He's always said, I believe in you. And we started to talk about, when we were together, we were like, a big issue that we have right now is money, right? And how can we, create another $100,000 to get rid of our debt, to be able to start putting things towards something, we're working for. And we started to try to manifest this money. And we did that. And one day, my coaching client sent me a message on Facebook, and she said, "Colleen, I had a dream about you and that you were looking at the stars tonight." And what was so crazy is that just moments earlier, I had turned to Steve and said, we should take out your telescope and look at the stars tonight. While I was out there is when I got a phone call sharing that there was a coaching program, a business coach program, where I would learn how to make $100,000 in a year. And I almost didn't think that it could possibly be the opportunity that we'd been trying to manifest. But luckily, Steve said, no, this is what you're meant to do. And so I went, and while I was there, it was a completely transformative experience in my personal life, and I won't get into all of that now, but I came home just feeling like I'd been stripped away of so much of my pain. And I realized that this was something that I could do that would allow me to step into that role of Lightworker and stop getting in my own way, and to start believing in the power of this universe, you guys. I mean, I had been praying for an opportunity like this, and it just came when I was ready. And now, because I have Wealthy Lightworker, which, you know, the name of it, I felt kind of like a fraud, right, at first, because, you know, in working with my network marketing business, sure, I've made money and I've helped others make money, and I love that. And that's why I wanted to do this topic, because so many people felt like I can't be both spiritual and make money, and there's somehow a disconnect there. And I knew that's not true. I know that's not true. So that's why I chose the topic, the Wealthy Lightworker. But what I learned through these interviews is that it's about so much more than dollar signs and zeros in your bank account. It's about acknowledging the abundance that is here around us all the time. And so I every day that I did one of these interviews, I had an epiphany. Something shifted, something shifted, something shifted, something shifted. And now I'm sitting here hours after I actually put my notice in at my day job, which I loved, but my purpose is bigger. My dreams are bigger. And you see this tapestry behind me. I just purchased this yesterday. So this symbolizes the next chapter in this community. For those of you who've been following along, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your energy, your feedback. You know, just the fact that you're even watching some of them and getting something out of it it means the absolute world to me, because that's the best feedback I can get, that you're enjoying this experience, because it's changed my life, and I hope it can have just a tiny effect on yours. And one of the things I realized in going through these past 2 years of upheaval in my life is that it is when we surrender. It's when we surrender and we take faith-based action that things align. And I looked at, and butterflies have always meant so much to me. They symbolize my grandmother who's passed away. They symbolize one of my best friends from childhood who passed away. They symbolize this transformation from a caterpillar and going through that complete metamorphosis into becoming a butterfly. And in between is surrender. In between is a complete rearranging of DNA. And that, my friends, is what I feel I've been able to experience over the past 2 years. And, you know, we don't know what it's like for the butterfly inside that cocoon. It looks peaceful, but it might have been hard to completely dissolve and regrow into a different species, a different creature. There's no way that that's easy, but maybe it is. Maybe it can be. And so it's become my vision and my mission now to hold the hand and lock the arms with anyone who is looking to go through this kind of metamorphosis. There are things that I do now that I did not do a year ago, 2 years ago. And those things have made my life infinitely more full of flow and grace and joy and love. But I was so blind before, and I didn't have the help of, a group coaching program that would empower me to take these steps and hold me accountable. But I have that now, and I want to create it for you. If you're looking to make a massive shift in your life, if you feel stuck, if you feel like all you do is live for other people's expectations, I know where you are. If you feel like you can't do something because it'll hurt someone, even though you know it's the thing that's written on your heart, I know where you are. If you feel like you just don't have the space in your life to even envision a shift, I know where you are, and I want to show you that it doesn't have to be hard. It's gonna be scary, but you're not alone. You're not alone. So that is why I'm launching the Conscious Mama Cocoon. It's a 4-month program that's going to allow you to go from the caterpillar you are into the butterfly that you're meant to be. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Thank you for taking the time to listen and watch this video and all of the videos of the 22 amazing experts that I was lucky and honored and blessed to know and meet and work with. I know that we're just getting started, and the future is bright. So be bright, love yourself, and join me. Thank you.